Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday, working towards the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jordan Kitchens and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and lots to do here on this Thursday. It's March Madness really beginning in earnest. I think these are two and potentially four of the best days on the sports calendar as there are games underway, and they'll be going on until after midnight this evening, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Of course, LSU and Texas are going to go at it on the baseball field over the weekend. Joe Healy is going to join us to talk a little bit about that at 1:30, along with the rest of the SEC slate. Luke Johnson in 15 minutes talking Saints. I got some baseball statistics I want to get to as well, and Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, will be with us at 2:15. So lock us in for the next 2 hours. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll start today the way we start every single day. That's, of course, with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Huge news in LSU football recruiting yesterday, just a little bit after we got off the air here on the Hunt Palmer Show, and that is, of course, the commitment of Tristan Keys, 5-star wide receiver from Hattiesburg High School in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I was on campus on Tuesday, and I was at practice, and then we went into interviews in the team room, and that's where we talked to Bauer Sharp, and we spoke with Barry and Brown. We talked to Jack Pyburn. And while we were doing that, there was very clearly a prospective student athlete who was kind of soaking in the entire thing, walking through the facility with family and friends, had some escorts here and there, and I had no idea who it was. But it was relayed to me that it was Tristan Keys. And about 28 hours later, Tristan Keys committed to LSU after that midweek visit, and this is big, big, big news. Now, eventually there may come a time where I don't feel the need to throw this massive caveat into a reasonable discussion, but today's not that day. We've got to throw the caveat in there just so you don't say that I'm stupid. I know that commitments don't mean much these days. I know that LSU was left at the altar at the 11th hour twice last year. I know all that stuff. And I'm not here suggesting that Tristan Keys is a stone-cold lead pipe lock to sign with LSU and early enroll and be a starter on the field in the fall of 2026. Like, I know that, okay? But we cover the team. He's a really good high school player. He's clearly interested in LSU. And I do think right now it's probably fair to suggest that LSU is the leader to get Tristan Keys. Is that fair? Maybe that's fair? So with that all said, let's just talk about what it could mean hypothetically if he did sign with LSU when that time comes in December. You look at his profile, he's almost 6'3", he's almost 190 pounds. He is the number one rated receiver by On3, by 24/7. He's the number 2 rated receiver in the nation by ESPN and Rivals. Everyone has got him as the best player in Mississippi. Outside of ESPN, they've got him number 2. But he's a top 10 player in the country no matter who you talk to. That's a big, big get. That doesn't guarantee you that he's Jeremiah Smith. It doesn't guarantee you that he's Julio Jones. It doesn't guarantee you that he's A.J. Green. But he's a really high-profile player. And I'll say this. I was thinking about this earlier. When I say premium position in football, I think immediately you go to quarterback. And I think these days you go to edge rusher, you go to offensive tackle. The quarterback, and the folks that affect the quarterback and protect the quarterback. Those are immediately where you go. But when I think about the landscape of college football, it's really important to have good wide receivers. Like, it really is. Even the Georgia team 2 years ago, you're like, I'm not sure about these weapons. Well, Ladd McConkey's making a name for himself in the NFL, and Brock Bowers is basically a wide receiver, and he set the record for tight end catches in the NFL history. So wide receivers is a big deal. And we know that LSU, when they've had their best teams, have had elite wide receivers. You don't have to go far in the distant past to see that with Jefferson and Chase, and then a couple years ago with Neighbors and Thomas. And when you're great on offense, wide receivers are a big deal. And Tristan Keys is as good a wide receiver as there is in the high school junior class currently. And he's pledged to LSU. Now, you look at how that could theoretically, hypothetically, however you want to phrase it, I know where we're going. Look at LSU's depth chart right now at wide receiver. You figure at the top of things, Nick Anderson is a fourth-year player. Barian Brown is a fourth-year player. Aaron Anderson is a fourth-year player. All of those guys could move on, and we think are likely to move on. And Chris Hilton's a fifth-year senior. That's kind of the top of you. And Xavier Thomas is a fourth-year senior. So Xavier Thomas and Chris Hilton will not be back. Barian Brown will not be back. And I don't think Nick Anderson and Aaron Anderson are going to be back. Now, we'll see. There's a lot of things to do, and Aaron Anderson's not 6'4", so we get it. But that's a lot of production that very well could be walking out the door. Destin Hill will have options after this year. He hadn't played very much college football, so we'll see. But really, if you're looking at the likely returners on LSU's team when you finally could see some emergence from Tristan Keys in his first year on campus, you're looking at right now Kyle Parker, Jelani Watkins, maybe Aaron Anderson, Teron Francis, Phillip Wright. Like, that's where you are right now. That could use some more depth and some more talent. And Tristan Keys certainly offers that. The transfer portal is going to be available at LSU. We know this past year they went and got Barian Brown and Nick Anderson. Likely the two best wide receiver options in the NFL, in the SEC that went into the transfer portal. So that's always going to be available. But, you're probably going to get those guys for 1 year. You could theoretically have Tristan Keys for 3 years, for 4 years. And I like that possibility. I'm not telling you he's Jeremiah Smith or Julio Jones, like I said, but it's a big deal to get him in the boat for now and see if you can keep him there for the next 7 months. Now, you look at LSU's recruiting class with Tristan Keys involved. And right now, according to On3, you're talking about the best class in the nation. You've got Tristan Keys, a 5-star at wide receiver. You've got Richard Anderson and his high school teammate Aiden Hall, both high 4-star players from Carr. You've got Bryson Martinez from East Ascension right down the road, who's a 4-star offensive tackle. Kenny Darby joins Tristan Keys in this class as a wide receiver. He's from Airline. He's moving up a lot of draft boards. I keep going with the NFL route. A lot of recruiting boards, a lot of scouting boards, a lot of ranking boards at this point. He's a guy that a lot of people think a lot of. Ja'Kai Anderson is a wide receiver in this class from McDonough 35. And then you've got Jalen Chapman, an interior offensive lineman who's a 3-star from Warren Easton down in New Orleans. So you're talking about high-profile guys, highly ranked guys, and then 3 of them at wide receiver. So I've funneled through that list of your depth chart and how you're losing a significant amount of guys. And for Cortez Hankton, it's about going out and restocking these shelves. And you certainly had a good start from inside the state with Ja'Kai Anderson and Kenny Darby, and then you add outside the state. Now, Hattiesburg's really close. It's not like they're going to Baltimore or up in Michigan or to the West Coast. So Hattiesburg is closer to Baton Rouge than it is to Oxford or Starkville. So this is a guy that they targeted early. They've gotten on campus a couple of times. They're in a heavy recruiting battle, and trust me, I know Tennessee's not going away. Alabama's not going away. Those are schools with deep pockets that have coaches that fancy themselves as offensive geniuses that are going to try to pry him away. But the pitch to come to LSU is a pretty good one. We're losing a lot of production that's going to leave us after your senior year of high school, and we've got a pretty good track record of getting guys paid at the next level. You only have to go back, look at that, 30 hours since Jamar Chase made $1 bajillion. He and Justin Jefferson, 2 highest paid wide receivers in NFL history. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas setting records, making Pro Bowl games. And you've got an offense that you feel like is plug and play. So I think this is a really, really big deal that certainly could change over time if he decides to go elsewhere. But right now, you look at LSU's class, and the Tigers continue to reel in high-level commitments. And when you can add a guy like Tristan Keys to this in-state group that's so highly touted and so well thought of that you've got inroads on and look to be doing very well with, you right now are setting the foundation for another excellent high school recruiting class. And that is still important. The portal's vital, and you've got to go get starters. And LSU did that this past year. But you've got to be able to supplement that with really good high school classes that you may be able to develop through. I'll go to different positions, but you need your Will Campbell and Emery Joneses. You need those guys. You need to have your Greg Penns and Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks. Like, you need to have guys you can develop because you can't count on trying to bring in 30 guys from the portal every year. You can go get 15, but you need to have your steady pool of talent coming in on the high school ranks to make your roster balance. And LSU seems to be striking that balance better than they were 2 years ago. Let's hope that continues. Tristan Keys, 6'3", 190-pound wide receiver from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 5-star player, top 10 in the country by every service. Commits to LSU yesterday. Big deal for the Tigers. If you're looking for our LSU coverage, you can find it on LouisianaSports.net and certainly on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. Want to invite you all to download the 104.5 ESPN app as well. I know a lot of you have it, and you know that you can listen on 104.5 ESPN. But also, we're using it with LouisianaSports.net, kind of a dual-purpose thing. You can stream us and find us on demand on the app, but you can also get the notifications when big things like this happen. We're not going to send you a push 4 times a day with every story that comes up on the website. But you get a 5-star commitment, a baseball score on a weekend, maybe baseball game gets postponed or canceled or suspended, that kind of stuff. We can push stuff to you if you download the app and enable your notifications at the 104.5 ESPN app. It is brought to you by Bayou Ford and CDJR. It's 104.5 ESPN app there on your app store. So go ahead and give that a download and enable your notifications. We'll get you that information as we can. That's our Genesis opening drive here on this Thursday. When we come back, Luke Johnson talking Saints. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. Genesis of Baton Rouge.com. Genesis of Baton Rouge is the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana. So if you're listening from inside Baton Rouge, well, that's great. You can get on by Airline Highway and see it. If you're somewhere else in the state and you're thinking, Genesis sounds like something I'd like to look into, come on down to Baton Rouge and check it out. They've got your sedans, they've got your SUVs, and you'll know when you get behind the wheel, it is a luxury driving experience. No question about that. How does 3 years of complimentary maintenance sound? Pretty good deal. 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance, even better than that. They will come get your vehicle. They will take it to the dealership, leave you with a loaner so you can get on about your day. They'll handle your maintenance, change your oil, deal with the cabin air filter, deal with the wiper fluid, blades, that kind of thing. Bring it right back to you. 3 years complimentary maintenance, and it's convenient. It's part of being a Genesis of Baton Rouge driver. Every single new Genesis purchase comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check out that inventory at genesisofbatonrouge.com. genesisofbatonrouge.com.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Auctioner, We know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
That rejoin doesn't hit the same without Beck in that seat, who's usually hounding me over the amount of battery life left on my laptop. Currently at this juncture in the show where we have about an hour and 45 minutes left, and I've got an hour 39 left on the laptop battery. So I feel like we got a reasonable chance to get to the finish line.
I'm not a big fan of the diss. That was such a diss. I didn't see that coming.
A lot of inside jokes on the rejoins. Luke Johnson joins us, covers the Saints for the Advocate with us on Thursdays. Luke, how are you? We got him, Jordan?
Yeah. Hey, you kind of blacked out for a second. I didn't hear you intro me, but hey, what's up, Hunt? Are you getting any sleep, man?
Last night wasn't great. We're to be honest, last night was not great, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna win the war eventually. Keller won the battle last night. Let's talk about the Saints' offensive line. I think that was a huge topic when we were back in training camp in California in August. What'd you learn this past season with the Saints' offensive line?
I think I learned that they have potential to be pretty good. A lot better than we thought going into last year. I think Fuaga had a really nice rookie season as the left tackle. There's questions about whether he could hold up on that side. I think Trevor Penning had he's by far not close to being a perfect player, right? But I think he took a lot of strides forward, and he can be somebody you can count on. I think when Eric McCoy was healthy, he's one of the best centers in football, and Cesar Ruiz was fine. I think really they're one player away from having a decent to good offensive line, which I think I would have been surprised to say that last year this time.
So what do they do about that position? I know that they added Will Clapp. He seems like a swing guy and a depth piece. I mean, what do they do about that guard spot?
Yeah, I mean, they still got to fill it, right? And I think there's a couple different ways you can do that. Kellen Moore has talked about the investment in the offensive line here, and that's one of the things that drew him to the job. I don't think it'd be a surprise to me if they went, offensive tackle at number 9. That's somebody like Will Campbell or Membo, the guy from Texas. And you see if they can play tackle, and maybe they're better suited as a guard. I think you could transition Penning to guard fairly easily. He was somebody who I think really excelled as a run blocker, and his probably weakest parts of his game were in space as a pass blocker. I think maybe you could mitigate that a little bit with him at guard. So like, let's say they draft Will Campbell, and he's somebody who's scouts are kind of split on as he a guard or a tackle. Like you try him out at tackle and see if he works there, and if he's better as a guard, then you've got first rounders at both guard spots and both tackle spots, and you're okay. Or they have cap space and they could fill it with a veteran guy who would probably come pretty cheap. Brandon Scherf is still out there. A couple other guys who have some legitimate NFL starting experience, who maybe they're not like a long-term answer there, but they can give you serviceable to good offensive line play at guard. I think they have options to fill it. I certainly don't think they're even close to done there.
Has Trevor Penning worked at guard at all? I know it's been a discussion like between folks that cover the team, but has he ever repped at guard?
Never taken a single snap at guard.
Okay. So
like that would be like, that's a huge projection, right? Like some guys can't do it. Like he's never played guard even in high school. So that'd be a risk if you decided to say like maybe that's where he best fits. But I do think that, like, based off of what we've seen, I think he would be pretty good there. And we've seen guys have success making that transition, right? Like Mekhi Becton last year, like he was a very similar player to Penning, like big, huge, athletic, who struggled at tackle, and you put him in a guard, and he played pretty well for the Philadelphia Eagles during the Super Bowl run. So, like, I think when you see stuff like that happen, you can kind of see that path for Penning existing if the Saints wanted to take it. Now, I have no idea if that's something they'd even consider, right? Maybe they are just like, he is our right tackle, and that's where he's going to be. But I do think that it should be on the table for them.
I don't expect you to be able to recall offensive lines from a decade ago, but as I look at Kellen Moore's career, I know that Dallas invested heavily in their offensive line and had a really good offensive line over the course of time when he was there, and I know what Philly's line was last year. I don't know what LA had in that 1 year he was there, but like it feels like Kellen Moore has had some really good offensive lines to call plays for. How do you feel like the Saints potentially stack up in that discussion?
Well, I mean, they're not on par. Like Philly had 4 Pro Bowlers on its offensive line last year, right? And the other guy was Mekhi Becton, who just signed like a $10 million a year contract with the Chargers. He had 2 of the best offensive linemen of their generation with Dallas, with Tyron Smith at left tackle and Zach Martin at guard. In addition to guys like Lyle Collins, who played very well for him while he was there. In LA, he had Rashawn Slater at tackle. I think Corey Linsley was still the center there. Two of like the high profile players of their position in the NFL. I think he has at least that and Eric McCoy. Yeah, I think as long as McCoy can stay healthy, he is like a top 5 center in the NFL. I think it remains to be seen with the rest of them, but like I do think that there is like there's some upward mobility for those guys, especially like Penning, if he can build on what he did last year. If Fuaga can build on what he did last year, I think you're looking at 2 solid pieces there. A really, really good one in Eric McCoy. A fine player in Cesar Ruiz. I don't think he's ever going to be a dominant guard, but I think he's solid when he's in there. If you can just get one more piece, I think you can have the makings of a pretty good offensive line. And we saw it like when Derek Carr was in the lineup. He played 10 games, he took 8 sacks, and when they had those guys all together, their running game looked pretty good. Now they're not going to be like doing that strict zone heavy running game that they did last year under Quint Kubiak, but like you can see the elements there being successful.
Yeah, whenever you talk about things like that, I bring myself back to those first 2 weeks, and I wrestle with it a little bit. I wrestle with the fact that Carolina and Dallas weren't any good, and I wrestle with the fact that the Saints really did look so good. And I wonder if I think it's easy for us to look back and go, those 2 teams suck, don't look at anything. But there's also a part of me that wants to go, it still was pretty good for 2 weeks before it all fell apart, and maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you can look at those two games and really convince yourself, but I do think that you can say, like, hey, when it was going right, it was going really, really good. Let's, like, lean into the strengths that we showed there when we were healthy. I do think that you can take some of that. You just can't, like, what I hope they're not doing as an organization, which, like, maybe they are.
Yeah.
Because they had so many injuries last year. What I hope they're not doing is they're, like, looking at those two games and they're saying, like, well, yeah, well, we can be that.
Okay.
Because it's just like that was unsustainable, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't do that over the course of the year. But I do think that you can say, like, we have some pretty good players. Let's continue building on that and see where this can go. Like, it's not like I don't think it's a total blow up situation there. They've got good players on the line. They've got good players at receiver. They've got a really good running back. Quarterback is what it is. I know everybody, hates Derek Carr around here, but he played pretty well when he was in the lineup last year. You can make that work offensively, but they need to keep building on it.
Anything that you may expect to hear in the next 7-10 days as far as free agent signings go? Maybe a name or a position, or all's kind of quiet right now?
I always kind of thought that they should be kicking the tires on some of these veteran wide receivers. There's some really good players out there. I mean, they're like on the tail end of their career, but like Keenan Allen is unsigned. Amari Cooper is unsigned. Stephon Diggs is unsigned. He's coming off a major injury, but big name. Brandon Cooks is unsigned. I think some of those guys would be better as complements in this offense, but like if you could get any of those guys at a reasonable price to be a number 3 behind Shaheed and Olave and give you, especially in the case of Keenan Allen, like a possession type receiver, I think that'd be really good for this offense. And you could kind of free yourself up a little bit in the draft. Because I don't think this is a great draft class at receiver. There's really one guy who I think is like a surefire first round pick, and Ted McMillan. And then outside of that, it's kind of, it depends on what your flavor is. So just like the fact that they were in on Cooper Kupp, which, like, by the way, I think they were very smart to not buy in at that price point. It tells me that maybe one of those other veteran receivers that is out there could potentially fit what they're looking for.
All your Saints coverage, you can find it over at The Advocate at by Luke Johnson on Twitter. He's with us every single Thursday. Thanks, Luke.
A pleasure, buddy.
Luke Johnson from The Advocate. Always good to chat with him about the New Orleans Saints. I think it's got to start at the offensive line with the offense. I mean, when they were good and healthy last year, the Saints were humming pretty good, and then they had a couple of cracks, and it just absolutely went to hell for New Orleans. And Kellen Moore, as we mentioned, has worked with some really good offensive lines in his time, and that's something that he's obviously going to take as a priority. I wouldn't throw a fit if they took an offensive lineman with their first pick in the draft. I think there are other places they can look as well, but offensive line would make some sense if you feel like that's the best way to patch that hole at left guard. So we'll see. That's our Saints report for today. Appreciate Luke for stopping on by. Another huge weekend in the Southeastern Conference. What about LSU and Texas? What about Texas A&M and Vanderbilt, which will play tonight? There are a number of big-time matchups on tap. We'll talk to Joe Healy about all of it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Man, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show with former Texas A&M Yell leader, Hunt Palmer. Giga Maggies.
I'm going to bet that the next guest on this program, who is on the line right now, is a little bit confused about that rejoin. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team Highway to Hoover podcast, and with us every Thursday talking SEC baseball, joins us now. Joe, how are you?
Pretty good. And yeah, a little fun fact about me, between having two parents who were or are Aggies, I guess "are" is the term they prefer to use. You're never a former Aggie.
Sure.
Hunt, they say you're a former student,
okay,
is what they say. So between that and my first job out of college actually was on the A&M campus. I actually have more knowledge about the Yell leaders than you would think. I'm not saying I want to have the knowledge, but I do have it.
Our afternoon host had me come in and act like a Yell leader before the LSU Texas A&M football game back in 2022, and I made a complete fool of myself and got a lot of views on social media, and then they made that rejoin. Let's talk some baseball, and I guess we can start with Texas A&M here because they got swept on their home field by Alabama, and I think for me, when I look at that series, the one thing that stood out was on Sunday they didn't score a run. That's just hard for me to believe. The story keeps developing. Do you have any further explanation as to why Texas A&M has played the way that they have?
Nope. Next question.
Yep.
No, I said on the Highway to Hoover podcast, like, they stink.
Yeah.
And like, I don't say that to be flippant, but they just do. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. And it's like, the thing with me, I think you're right to seize on the fact that against Alabama's Sunday pitching, which hasn't been particularly good, not terrible, but hasn't been particularly good, they just had nothing. And so that is concerning. I think there's also, even beyond the fielding errors, and that is a problem also. They're not a good defensive team, and there's good reasons for that. They've had to move a lot of pieces around, but also even some of the pieces that aren't moved around, they're just not great defenders. But the other part is, like, there's just kind of these, like, weird mental lapses or just things you wouldn't expect. Like, just to give one micro example, Jace Laviolette gets caught stealing second base, and rather than slide head first, which is kind of what you're taught to do there, he slides in feet first, which, of course, A, slows you down, but also B, the throw comes in, it's high, and he ends up getting tagged out because he slid feet first, which means he's sitting up. So he gets tagged on the shoulder. Whereas if he's hands first, the middle infielder is never able to reach down and tag him. So it's little things like that have just kind of been adding up and adding up and adding up. So at this point, I'm just kind of like, hey, I need to see something else from them before I start to talk about them as any sort of postseason threat again. The only thing, Hunt, that keeps me like even just 2% kind of intrigued here is just we see this every year with some SEC team that just falls on their face right out of the gate and then kind of figures it out as time goes on. We'll see if they have that in them. Certainly the pitching is not a problem, so I guess if nothing else, you feel like they're going to be able to keep some scores low and maybe you pull some things out, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if A&M fans don't want to hear it, but I mean, if you are removed from the situation like I am over here, and I'm looking at the way that their weekend rotation threw it over the weekend, I'm going, you got a chance. You just got to find a way to get your head above water. LSU proved that with Holman and Jump last year. So we'll see. We'll leave that one in the rearview mirror. Another sweep up in Knoxville. My personal take was that Florida actually acquitted themselves okay. They just didn't win any of the games. And I think Tennessee's really, really good. What were your thoughts on that 3-game sweep up at Lindsey Nelson?
Yeah, I totally agree. Florida looked fine. I think it goes to show something I think I've talked about on your show the last couple of weeks. One plane, and then there's a gap. Even to Arkansas, I think we saw that. Florida's a very good team, even though they're beaten up a little bit right now. But Tennessee's just better. And I think that the biggest thing for me with Tennessee that stood out is we've talked about Frank Anderson's influence, and they get a complete game shutout in game 2 of that series from Marcus Phillips, who last year was a reliever who faced like 1 or 2 batters per outing. And now he's out there throwing 7 shutout against Florida, which I don't care who Florida's missing in their lineup. Like, that's impressive stuff. And so, if that, now that's probably an extreme example. I'm not saying he's going to be that every week, but it does show you the ceiling of their rotation. If Doyle continues to throw like that and you've got Marcus Phillips behind him, it looks like Tennessee's kind of done it again in terms of developing pitching and just kind of proving that, between the player acquisition and player development, they're operating at the highest level of the sport right now.
Where do you come down on Tennessee and LSU as we're talking about that? I know D1 flipped them in their poll. Where did you see that?
Yeah, I had Tennessee just a little bit ahead, and it had less to do with LSU. Although we can nitpick the weekend that was at Mizzou. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But for me, it's just Tennessee has been so overwhelming. And if you sweep Florida the way they did, where there were some compelling moments in that series, the series was closer than the final scores would tell you, I think. But it was a comprehensive sweep. I don't think there's any ambiguity about that. And so it was just too impressive to deny. And it was the first time we've done that in D1 baseball history. Aaron Fitt, who's obviously been there since day one, says, at least to his memory, this was the first time we've had a number one team get dropped after sweeping a conference opponent. But it just kind of called for it because that's how dominating Tennessee's been so far.
I don't disagree. I think Tennessee's been awesome. I think LSU's very good, but they've got to get a little bit better, I think. Look, I want to talk about Texas and Mississippi State. We'll leave Texas for a little bit later because LSU's going to Austin tomorrow. Mississippi State, 14-7, kind of losing to everybody with a pulse at this point. Is there cause for real concern in Starkville?
I think so. It's important that we kind of give that some context. I think this team is closer to last year's team than it was to the disasters of the previous season, 2 previous seasons before that. But I do think it's probably a team that's more like last year, certainly, than the teams that hosted before that. So I do think there is cause for concern in terms of if you thought this was an Omaha level team, and I think some state folks thought it could be. But the questions for me are, what do you got behind Pico Khan in the rotation? He's been great, but they've cycled through a few guys after that, and part of that's been injuries, so I get that. And I'm starting to kind of look sideways a little bit from a lineup perspective at, is this just who Hunter Hines is? I think he gets lumped in sometimes with Jared Jones in terms of, hey, slugging first baseman who put up big numbers and guys who probably could be in pro ball right now. But whereas Jared Jones has become a complete hitter and still hits with that power, we're sitting here with Hunter Hines for kind of the second year in a row where he hasn't hit for a ton of power to start the year. His batting average is about 250. He's still striking out too much. It just kind of feels like he's the same guy, and I think we were all looking for him to be a centerpiece. They've had some guys pop up in the lineup that are off to really good starts, but I'm not sure how long that'll last for some of these guys, so they need Hunter Hines to be that centerpiece, and he just hasn't been.
Yeah, LSU's next 2 weekends are Texas and then Mississippi State here at the Box. So let's talk about LSU and Texas before we get into the rest of the games this weekend. Horns go to Starkville and sweep, as we said. You and I talked about them before the season started. Said, yeah, not as talented as Schloss. Maybe we want them on the mound, but they can really hit. They pitched it pretty good against Mississippi State. What do you think about the Longhorns at this point?
Yeah, feeling a little better about them on the mound than I did when you and I last talked about it. So I think those are positive steps. And to me, the big thing here is that this feels like vintage Schlossnagel in that, like, they've got holes in this roster, but I just kind of think they're going to keep patching it together. I think there's a ceiling on this team. If they get to Omaha, I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't think this team is a serious national title contender. Those are probably going to be famous last words. But that's my read on this. They've gotten some good stuff from Jared Spencer and Luke Harrison in the rotation, but I think the bigger question is going to be, can they hold their best bullpen guys, Max Grubbs, who's kind of a stock right-hander, soft-tossing guy, who was a starter last year and didn't strike many people out. Have they figured something out with him, or is maybe a little reversion to the mean coming? I think it's closer to the latter. I think their offense is actually probably underperforming their talent level, so I think that's a group that maybe actually could get a little bit better as the season goes on. But they do remind me a little bit of LSU offensively in terms of the depth is really impressive there, and they've got a freshman whose numbers aren't as good as Curiel's, but Adrian Rodriguez is a freshman in their lineup who has just like future superstar written all over him, and it's made their lineup deeper than I think we even anticipated it being coming into the year.
Dish Falk, how does it play? I'm not familiar enough with it. This is Texas' first spin through the SEC. I'm told it's a pretty pitcher-friendly park, but what is as a native Texan, what is your memory of Dish Falk?
Yeah, it's pitcher-friendly as far as, any ballpark these days is pitcher-friendly.
Sure.
Yeah, but it is one of the more pitcher-friendly ones. So I think it's one of the reasons why their pitching has kind of worked, is that there's not a lot of pressure on, hey, we have to, it's not like being a Tennessee pitcher where it's like, hey, we can't allow a ball in the air because it might get out of here. So they kind of have some cushion to just, make some pitches, give up some contact and let your defense play, and then the ball's going to stay in the yard. My funniest thing that used to happen in Dish Falk that doesn't anymore is they used to have like that old school, like Astrodome, AstroTurf. And one of their home field advantages used to be if you're an outfielder crashing on like a bloop and you don't get there, the ball would bounce over your head. That thankfully does not happen anymore because it was kind of a circus, but it is still a pretty hard turf surface, but it plays a little more true these days. But yeah, pitcher's park over hitter's park for sure.
Your concern on LSU's number 2 and number 3 with Heinsohn and Shores right now? High, low, none, what?
Medium, just because I think Mizzou's lineup is better, but I still think it's probably 16 of 16 on paper in the SEC, and they had some success there. So I'm going to avoid total panic here. But let's just say that I am going to be closely watching this weekend to kind of see how that goes. I'm going to allow them to have, a little bit of an adjustment period, and every pitcher, unless your name is Paul Skeens, has bad weekends. And we're just going to hope that's kind of what we saw there, is that just it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for these guys as they continue to face SEC batters. And even with Mizzou, compared to a lot of what they faced in non-conference, those were obviously higher level hitters. So maybe it's just that, but I'm definitely going to be watching it closely.
2 games tonight, A&M and Vanderbilt, and then Tennessee at Alabama. Those 2 series, how do you kind of handicap them?
Yeah, the Alabama one's going to be interesting on a couple of levels. I want to see what that atmosphere looks like with Alabama basketball being what it is these days. Right. I kind of worry they're not going to be able to have the atmosphere that it deserves. But I do think that's an offense that can hang around a little bit. Ultimately, I think Tennessee's just too good. But I think Alabama could get a game here because I do think their offense can keep them in games. And look, Riley Quick is now stretched out to 5-6 innings, and he's not as good as Liam Doyle, but he's in that conversation of guys in terms of stuff and quality. So, could they squeak one out there? I think. A&M and Vanderbilt is so fascinating, man, because I'm increasingly thinking that this is just the same Vanderbilt. And that's obviously there's a floor there that makes them a postseason team, maybe even a host team if they get really fortunate. But I just don't see enough fundamental differences in their ability to score that I think it changes their overall outlook. They could win this series because A&M is lost and it's at home and all that stuff. But I don't know that I'm necessarily super bought in on Vanderbilt no matter what happens this weekend.
Enjoy the baseball this weekend. We will certainly catch up next week. Thanks, Joe.
All right, see you, buddy.
Joe Healy, D1 Baseball over there, SEC Extra Team, Highway to Hoover, something I listen to every single week. He and Mark Etheridge dive in, especially after the weekend is concluded. They do over an hour of SEC baseball talk, and I always very much enjoy their analysis. So a lot of interesting matchups tonight. 2 games for the Thursday slate. A&M is at Vanderbilt, as I mentioned. Tennessee at Alabama. If Alabama can get 1 game this weekend at home against Vanderbilt, win 1 game, they will have opened at A&M, home Tennessee, and be 4-2. You would have taken that every second of the day back in January. So an interesting deal there, and LSU fans will certainly be locked in on Tennessee. As Joe said, kind of LSU and Tennessee jockeying for position there towards the top of the SEC. So LSU and Texas tomorrow. We'll talk to Mark Etheridge tomorrow, I'm hoping, because he's going to be in Austin. I've already got an interview set up with Texas beat writer for tomorrow. Looking forward to that as well. We'll talk a lot of LSU and Texas on tomorrow's show. Plenty to do in hour number 2 of the show today as we cruise here on this Thursday. I got a bunch of statistics for LSU baseball that I want to kind of go into. It's going to be kind of numbers heavy, but just there's a lot of interesting things that are probably things that you know in the back of your head but haven't put numbers to. We'll do some of that in the second hour. Chris Blair will be with us at 2:15 as well. So plenty to do in the second hour. When we come back, I wasn't planning on doing this segment today, but I'm going to do it. We'll talk about that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase. Automotive is going to do right by you.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your Ochsner Andrews Institute, long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
Truly an incredible run by me. Amazing run. 1-0 in the 2025 NCAA tournament. Had Creighton over Louisville. That's a victory. Just an unbelievable performance by me. And now the bracket's busted. I had High Point over Purdue. Purdue will win that game. They have double-digit lead with 1 minute to go. So it was a one-game run. Are you proud of me, Jordan?
I mean, you gave your best effort.
I
That's
did.
all that matters.
Put my best foot forward.
That's all that matters.
We had a goal to go as far as we could with a perfect bracket.
Yes.
We made it 2 hours. So look.
I'll do you one better. I didn't make it any hours because I had Louisville. So I already started off on the wrong foot.
0-1.
Yeah,
all right.
I started off bad.
We'll see what happens when Will Wade's McNeese Cowboys play Clemson later on today. I wrote a column at LouisianaSports.net this morning, and it's titled Tiger Basketball is about the future, not the past. And I put it up, and it has gotten 100% negative feedback. And I'm not shocked by that, but it does, I think, to me, further a discussion because I'm here talking to the LSU fan base, and I write columns all the time. Very rarely do they get the amount of replies and responses that this one did. So clearly, people were interested in the discussion. So I was going to leave the Will Wade thing in yesterday. I'll bring it back for 4 minutes here because when I read the responses to my column, this is what, and I'm generalizing and painting with a broad brush here, but this is generally speaking the tone that I'm sensing in the replies to my column about, hey, let's move forward with basketball, not think about the past. The response is, and again, I'm generalizing and painting with a broad brush. We had a good basketball coach. The administration screwed it up. It's their fault, not the coach's fault. We're never going to recover from this. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like LSU fans don't think there's any way forward with the basketball program without Will Wade. And I said on the air yesterday and wrote in the column, I really enjoyed Will Wade's days as the head basketball coach at LSU. It was really fun to be right there in the mix in January and February and March every year. That was great. But I also have moved on from that and have not clung to the hope, one, that he would come back, or two, clung to the misery of the firing. It was 3 years ago. 3 years. There are plenty of ways to revitalize your basketball program. Maybe one is pumping more money into it. Maybe not, but maybe one is, and LSU's going to try that. But hey, Tennessee canned Bruce Pearl, okay? They hired Rick Barnes, and they're great again. Billy Donovan left Florida. 2 hires later, they're a 1 seed. You don't have to just have one guy pilot the ship to have a good basketball program. There are other coaches that can get things done in Baton Rouge. And my hope is that Matt McMahon is one of those coaches. If he's not, and I know there are tons of y'all listening just rolling your eyes out of the back of your head because LSU just went 3-15 in the league. I get it. I watched it all. What I'm telling you is I hope Matt McMahon is it. If that turns out not to be the case, and Scott Woodward decides to make a move, there are other guys that can coach the basketball program, and you can resurface and be good again. I promise it can happen. I liked Will Wade here as much as anybody. I wish he didn't get fired. I wish he wasn't on the phone when the FBI tapped a wire, okay? But that's over. And I don't think it does any good to just wring our hands over the whole thing 3 years later. If it was in February, we could talk about it. It was 3 years ago. LSU basketball can be good again. And if you want to completely criticize Scott Woodward, which a lot of people are doing, a lot of people, baseball seems to be going pretty well. Women's basketball seems to be going pretty well. Gymnastics seems to be going pretty well. It stands to reason that I think there's some confidence football could be good. It's not perfect, but you look across the athletic program, LSU's winning a lot. They're winning a lot. So I'm not here to just completely annihilate the entire administration. I wish it had gone differently, but I don't want to relitigate the entire thing over and over and over and over again until LSU makes the tournament. But again, I wouldn't be talking about this if I didn't think people were interested in it. And the metrics on the website indicate there's a lot of people interested in it. So we revisit it. Hopefully LSU basketball is in the tournament this time next year. If they're not, well, you got to go find somebody. All right, that's it for hour number 1 here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We'll come back with hour number 2. A lot of baseball stats I want to get into, both individual and team-wise. We'll do that after SportsCenter right here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. Look, your buying experience is going to be luxury in every way at Genesis of Baton Rouge. I know there are a lot of you out there that do not like going to the car dealership. You feel like you're going to be assaulted by some over-aggressive salesperson who's just going to try to upsell you, and you're not going to get I understand. There's a stereotype there that exists for a reason. But just try Genesis of Baton Rouge. Their brand ambassadors are going to treat you like a guest, not a customer. They're going to listen to your every need, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure that your experience is top-notch. And when you make that purchase, you're going to get a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and you're going to get 3 years of complimentary maintenance, and you're going to get valet maintenance, and you get a luxury branded vehicle at a reasonable price. Start that process today at GenesisofBatonRouge.com or go see them at Airline and Pico. Airline and Pico, fairly new to the location. Go check them out. Start that process again online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment. Dave's back on. Coors Light. Choose chill.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Men, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972.
Center.
I'm Doug Brown. It's the first day of spring, and the first round of the NCAA tournament is underway. Creighton beats Louisville in Lexington.
8 to shoot, lead for Neal, who has been fantastic. 4 to shoot. Neal up top, 2 to shoot. Right to left, crossover, contested 2. Got it! It is Jemiah Neal's day, and we're just living in it. He's got 27. It's 81-63.
John Sadak on the Westwood One NCAA Radio Network. Creighton wins at 89-75. Jemiah Neal with 29 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists for the Blue Jays, who've now won at least one game in the tournament 5 years in a row. One other final, Purdue beats High Point 75-63. Trey Kaufman-Wren with 21 for the Boilermakers. Games underway right now. Wisconsin leads Montana 63-50 with less than 11 minutes to go. Halftime, Houston all over SIU Edwardsville 52-24. Duke freshman Cooper Flagg, who missed the last 2 games, is ready to go tomorrow.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming up Friday as NFL free agency winds down. I'll tell you the NFL teams that got bargains and the teams that are poised for busts. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Appreciate you hanging out with us here. Working towards the weekend. Going to be a good one over in Austin, Texas. LSU and Texas for the first time as conference foes over in Austin. Of course, the last time the Tigers were in Austin was a couple years ago. Gavin Dugas, big 3-run homer in the 9th inning to win that. I think that was a Tuesday night game after the Astros Classic, if I'm not mistaken. No, after Round Rock, if I'm not mistaken. So LSU back there as a conference opponent this time around. I have a story that's coming up this afternoon on LouisianaSports.net. It's called Statistically Speaking. And this is not something I do every day on the radio because numbers don't play awesome on radio. But sometimes I like to just get a big old packet of stats out and just start diving in. I printed 60 pages of statistics out from the SEC and LSU baseball today and just started going through it with a highlighter and seeing some stuff that jumped off the page. And I don't think anything that I'm going to tell you in this segment is going to completely blow you away, but I do think it illuminates. And I think that it illuminates some of the trends that LSU has displayed over the course of this start. And so I'll go through it. And again, I don't do this on the radio all the time because it's a little bit choppy and not necessarily conversational like a lot of things are. But I think the numbers are cool. So let's go into it. Derek Curiel has reached base in every game so far. We know that. His on-base percentage is .578. He is nearly getting on base 60% of the time. That is second in the SEC. He is tied for the SEC lead in walks with Andrew Fisher of Tennessee. He is second in the SEC in batting average to Ryland Zaborowski of Georgia. So Derek Curiel, second in the on-base percentage, tied for the lead in walks, second in batting average. Incredible start for Derek Curiel. Jared Jones, I would not have had this on my bingo card here at the beginning of the baseball season. He's got 36 hits. That is second in the SEC. He's also second in the SEC in doubles and fifth in runs driven in. So the evolution of Jared Jones as an actual hitter and not just a slugger is really taking hold. Again, I know where we are in the calendar. I know what's in the rearview mirror and what's to come. You've faced a bunch of terrible teams. A lot of good ones are on the way up. But a lot of guys in the SEC have faced a similar schedule to LSU's, and Jones right now is second in the league in hits. I think that's cool. Cade Anderson, LSU's ace, second in the SEC in strikeouts. He is 5 shy of Tennessee's Liam Doyle, who leads the way in that category. But Cade Anderson has looked the part of an ace. One thing that is I didn't realize is that Cade Anderson has allowed 4 home runs on the year, which is toward the top of the SEC. But the strikeouts are there. He's got 48 of them. That is second place in the league. Here's one I did not realize. This is something that I thought did jump out at me and did alter my perception a little bit about the start of the season. Chase Shores, he's allowed 26 hits in 23 2/3 innings. So his batting average against to this point is 286. That's not good. An SEC starter should not have a batting average against of 286 at this point in the calendar. So that's concerning. But here's the flip of this, and I did not realize this in just watching the games. 24 of the 26 hits that Chase Shores has allowed have been singles. 2 have been doubles. He's allowed 2 extra base hits in 5 starts. Now, I do think that Chase Shores has given up some hard contact. I do think he's been hit around a little bit. But the fact that he's keeping the ball in the yard, has not allowed a home run, and really hasn't allowed anyone to slug against him is slightly encouraging. I think that number should indicate that if you don't allow doubles and home runs, a lot of what you're giving up are singles, and singles oftentimes are playable by infielders if they're ground balls through the hole, low line drives. Like, doubles aren't playable a lot. You hook one down into the corner, like, nobody's catching that. You hit one off the base of the wall, that's not going to be caught. But singles can be played if they're hit at the right spot at somebody. And they're just not at times for Chase Shores at this point. So I'd like to see him be better than he has been thus far. But the fact that he hasn't allowed teams to slug, I think, is a little bit encouraging. Now let's look at some other things. Strikeout to walk. Zach Cowan, 26-3. 26-3 strikeouts to walks. That's why he pitches. Now, the changeup's great, and he can strike guys out, and he's got a good breaking ball, but the main thing that Zach Cowan does is throw strikes. And that's crucial in any role on the pitching staff, but the one he's filling, which is kind of long relief right now in tight spots, that's really good at 26-3. Now, another guy that's got pretty good strikeout to walk ratio is Anthony Ianson. I know, he struck 15 out against North Alabama. Got it. But he's 40-6 strikeout to walk. 6 walks in 5 starts. I know there is a big contingent of you, the LSU baseball fan, the listener to this show, that wants to see some shakeup in the rotation because you feel like Ianson gets hit too hard. Look, I think I've got LSU stats here. What is his batting average against Anthony Ianson? 225. He was excellent in that outing two games ago, but you do know that Nebraska hit him a little bit. You do know that Missouri knocked him out in the 4th inning. But he throws strikes, and that's important. I don't have anyone else besides Cowan that I feel like I could plug into that rotation that's going to throw it over the plate, and I don't really want to move Cowan. So while I do agree that there's been too much hard contact off of Ianson, the power that he has is that he can find the strike zone consistently, and you're looking at a pitching staff that has struggled with that. We'll get to those numbers in a second, but that 40-6 strikeout to walk is a powerful tool. Now, Cade Anderson's been great. He's 48-8. That's awesome. You would assume he's been awesome. He hasn't had trouble with his command, and the strikeout numbers have been phenomenal. So 48-8. So that's kind of my look at a lot of the individual. There's one more that's defensive. This is sensational. Sensational. Stephen Milam and Daniel Dickinson have 132 chances in the field between them. They have made 3 errors. 3 errors on 132 chances. Bill Franquez has watched a lot of LSU baseball over the years. A lot. He went on a podcast over at LSU this week and said it's the best double play combination he's seen at LSU. That's loud. Because you've seen some really good ones. You've seen Alex Bregman and Cole Freeman, who I thought did a great job defensively. You saw a couple years ago a good defensive middle infield that won a national championship. Jordan Thompson did kick it around a little bit early in his time there, but he really cleaned it up late. And I thought Dugas played solid. And he's not a great defender. He's not even a good defender in terms of range, but he made solid plays. I thought that you moved DJ LeMahieu over to second base from shortstop and played Austin Nola there. Like, that was a good group. But these two have been awesome. There's no two ways about it. They've made the routine plays, and they've made the stellar plays. 3 errors in 138 chances. That's incredible, incredible stuff from those two guys. Now, let's look at some of the team stats pretty quickly before we get to Chris Blair. LSU's tops in the SEC, number 1 in batting average. LSU's 3rd in slugging percentage and 2nd in on-base percentage. So because of all that, you're 3rd in runs scored. LSU also leads the SEC in doubles. LSU's 4th in the SEC in walks and 3rd in the SEC in fewest strikeouts. So to me, you're looking at, when you look at production, I want to know what batting average, slugging, and on base are. That will tell me basically what runs are going to be. But in batting average, you're 1st, on base, you're 2nd, slugging, you're 3rd. That's complete right there in terms of production. Doubles means you're hitting the ball hard. You lead the league in that. You're 4th in walks. I like that as well. You're not striking out. That is 3rd. You're 3rd in that category. And I like the fact that they're 2nd in sack flies. That's an execution stat to me. I realize it's an out, but you're scoring runs with those. So I like that as well. That to me gives a pretty balanced offense top to bottom. They're 6th in home runs. That's lagging a little bit, but I think that's going to come as the weather warms up, and you've got a little bit of pop in that lineup. I mean, you look at statistically, Jones has 8, which you knew, but Dickinson's got 6, Milam's got 5, Pearson's got 3, Fry now has 4. So you got 5 or 6 guys that are a threat to run it out of the yard in a given lineup. You're not going to see Stanfield hit a lot of home runs. I don't think Curiel's going to hit a bunch of home runs. I don't think Brown is going to hit a ton of home runs. But you've got some guys that can hit it out of the ballpark. So you're 6th in the league in that. I think you're gonna be okay there. As far as the pitching goes, some of this is very good. Some of it's a little bit concerning. Strikeouts. You led the nation in strikeouts last year. You're 1st in the SEC right now. Awesome. But your control has not been good enough. You're 13th out of 16 teams in walks allowed. That's too many. Wild pitches, you're the worst. The worst. So that's a command issue. You're walking too many guys. You're throwing too many wild pitches. Now, can that be fixed? I think so. I think you can cut the rotation of arms down that you're depending on. You're going to throw a lot of guys, freshmen, young pitchers early in the season in blowout games. You're going to tighten that pitching rotation up. Guys can improve their command as well, and you got to catch better, and I think LSU will do that. So, look, walks at 13th, and wild pitches at 16th. That's not good enough. But you're doing a good job at not allowing slug. You're 3rd as far as fewest doubles go, and you've allowed the 2nd fewest home runs in the SEC. Texas has allowed the fewest. So I think that you're not allowing teams to slug. You're striking a ton of guys out. You've just got to clean up the walks and the wild pitches. That's where pitching has got to kick in. So that's kind of a look at statistics. I know that's a lot of numbers, and I'm not going to do that every day on the show, but I feel like if you're locked into the team and if you're that's not – I don't think a lot of y'all at your desk today printed out 50-plus sheets of statistics and went through them. So that is where I feel like I can come in and be of service to you and do something that you don't have time to do because you've got a real job. So I will do this every 3 weeks or so just to kind of get a refresher on how things are going. I'll certainly write about it at LouisianaSports.net. If you want to see all of the statistics I dug up today, there are more than I just relayed. You'll see that on the website a little bit later this afternoon. It's LouisianaSports.net up there for free, as everything always is at LouisianaSports.net. Let's take a time out. Come back with Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com is that website. And Jonathan Carbo and his team at Highland Insurance Group, they pride themselves on expertise when it comes to policy language. When I was in the insurance business, it became very clear to me very quickly that a lot of folks that are buying insurance on the commercial side, whether it's the owner or the CFO, are not quite fluent in insuranceese. Like, it's complicated. These policies have a ton of language in them, a lot of addendums, a lot of amendments, a lot of exclusions. That stuff can get tedious. And at the Highland Insurance Group, they can handle it for you. I tell you the story that a few times I have. Jonathan Carbo and his team were looking over a property policy for a prospective client, and they had 5 locations. And the GL policy, general liability policy, had $1 million sitting over all 5 locations. They took it, rewrote it, and put $1 million on each of the 5 locations, so $5 million total, and the premium stayed the same. That's the kind of thing that you can get from the Highland Insurance Group. That's not necessarily shaving 20% off your cost right off the bottom line. That's not realistic in this market more often than not, but it helps. And they're trusted, and they want to help you. So if you're a business owner and you haven't looked at the Highland Insurance Group, ask them to take a look at your policies. They'll do it for free. If they like what they see, they'll give it right back to you. If they feel like they can improve upon it, they will do that, and then they'll be your broker for a long, long time. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at highlandig.com.
Baton Rouge's home for real rock. It's Eagle 98.1. Foo Fighters. Led Zeppelin. AC/DC. Pearl Jam. And the flagship home for LSU sports. Take us anywhere with the Eagle 98.1 app. Eagle 98.1 is the rock station.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-11.
Hunt Palmer, lover of LSU, Shreveport, and mayonnaise on hot dogs. The Hunt Palmer Show.
Chugging right along here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. March Madness in full swing. Auburn underway in their opening round game. I don't even know who they're playing. They're going to beat somebody by 30, I'm certain. Let's talk some baseball. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, joins us every single Thursday. Does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, man. Sitting here at the Austin airport and, waiting for the rental car that apparently they canceled because they said our flight was canceled. But
appears it was not. If you're
canceled.
You're in the airport, I don't think it was.
Yeah, thankfully the LSU baseball team, we did arrive here in Austin, so the plane did not. The flight was not canceled. So anyway, just hanging out, enjoying pretty nice weather here in Austin today.
Yeah, what's the weather forecast for the weekend? You got that handy?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Going to be right around 70 degrees. A little cloud cover, but I think most of Saturday is going to be sunshine tomorrow. So I think the weather's pretty good. I mean, they had some pretty rough stuff in Texas that the rest of the country's been going through yesterday and probably some parts on the East Coast today. But, yeah, they say it's going to be nice here, so we're looking forward to it.
First Jay Johnson show of the season in the rearview mirror. How's Coach feeling off to a 21-1 start?
He's really, really proud of his team. I mean, that's the one thing you could sense. he was very appreciative of the work they put in the fall. He kind of said, nothing really surprises me anymore, at the number of years he's been coaching at this level, but he just said he likes the way the guys approach it. He said you never want to lose a ball game, and he's always, I think he made some mention of the fact, some people always say, well, that one loss can help you, and he's not willing to commit to that, but he said he liked the way his team has approached each game in that same way he said since he's been here, 56-game playoff. They dropped that game to Omaha. He said since then he's been very pleased with the way the team, regardless, it's about how we go play, it's how we go execute. They prepare for every game regardless who they're playing. And obviously it's worked to this point. They got a 16-game win streak, including their first sweep in SEC opening weekend since 2019. So I don't want to say he's confident because Jay's never confident. He always is. He's confident in his abilities and his talent, but he's still working, seamlessly and tirelessly every single day. But he seems to like this group of players.
He talked a lot in December and January about how complete he thought they could be on offense and scoring in a lot of different ways. He didn't like that they were kind of relying on the Tommy White, Jerry Jones homers at the end of last year. It appears to have played out that way thus far. There's better pitching on the horizon, but did you get that sense from him?
Yeah, no, that's kind of what we laughed about it because I said, Coach, what is going on here? We're hitting and running, we're stealing bases, double stealing, we're suicide squeezing and safety squeezing, and oh yeah, we get some extra base hits and some home runs. And he laughed and he said, we want to use everything at our disposal to get them on, get them over, and get them in. And he goes, I know it didn't look like that the first 3 years. But to your point, that's what he said. Were you going to take the bat out of the hand of some of those guys? And then I think last year what happened is that you, as you said, you had to rely on it. More so even solo home runs, you just to score offense. So I think, again, we're seeing kind of the vision he probably had once arriving here, knowing the type of talent that he could attract to LSU. And I think that's why this team certainly is one to be dealt with. And, it's not like, I'm sure we all get excited. How many times have we all said over the years, going back since I've been here, in this particular situation, a little small ball wouldn't have been bad. But you got to get used to it because small ball is not automatic. It's almost like we've become complacent that when you do small ball, you never fail at that. And maybe we need to do that when the big boppers aren't hitting. But you can ask a team like Kentucky and Coach Mangione. That's what they do, but it doesn't always work. So I think the fact that you've got multiple layers, multiple weapons, makes this team, one that you have to be excited about, and obviously people are.
I got on this microphone and talked in February about how I'm not certain about the middle of the infield defense. Milan's got to move over. I haven't seen Dickinson play a lot. I don't know what they're going to be at catcher, and they still got to figure some things out at catcher. But Bill Fenkes earlier this week said this is the best double play combination he's seen at LSU. So maybe I wasn't all that bright in questioning that. What have you seen from Dickinson and Milam up the middle?
Well, that's why you get paid the big bucks.
Exactly.
No, I think so. I had the same reservations you did because we kind of got accustomed to what we had last year in that middle infield, and Milam was solid. And I thought Michael Braswell played better last year than maybe I thought he did before he transferred from South Carolina. And that's kudos to Michael. I think he impressed me. But, yeah, when you start moving people around, you're obviously going to wonder how is that going to work. And, it's just LSU's lucky they got a guy like Stephen Milam who I'm not sure what position he couldn't play and play extremely well. And I think Daniel Dickinson has been just a great adjustment. Those guys are smooth. They seem to be in simpatico. They kind of know where each other needs to be. And I've been impressed with them. And in the catcher position, you go back to Jay's first year, and I'll never forget the regional in Hattiesburg. That's a long grind to have one catcher and then trying to bring another along in a long season that has to go into the postseason. And he said multiple times on the back half of that first year, I'm not going to be without multiple catchers. I want talented catchers, and I want guys who, yes, deserve a day off or after a week or two or back-to-back weekends or on the road. And I think we've got that. I think Luis Hernandez has done a really solid job. Kate Arambidi is certainly getting better each time he's behind the plate. And you got two more. We've seen a little bit of Priester. He mentioned that Yaman probably at this moment would be a redshirt. At least they're thinking about that at this point, because in baseball, it's not like other sports where, they put him in there one game and there goes the red shirt.
Yeah.
So But I think they've got three really good ones, and Jay said on Monday night he's been happy with all of them and says they're all just going to get better as each game goes by.
I'm painting with a really broad brush here, admittedly, but this is an era of I can transfer whenever I want. I can make money other places. I can create a bidding war and have that be financially beneficial. And that playing time is the ultimate deal. And I've been very, very interested in the post-game interview sessions that I've done from the writing side with Michael Braswell and with Jake Brown and with Josh Pearson, who don't seem to care if they're in the lineup on Tuesday or on Sunday or on Friday. But when I'm in there, I'll play. And when I'm not, I'm going to cheer for the guys. And I don't know that happens everywhere. And it's not just one guy that's saying it. It's a whole team of guys that are saying it. Have you noticed that about this LSU baseball team and really the program under Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Jay and joked with him several times about how, if this baseball thing don't work out, Coach, you might want to look into, sales. Yeah. Because, look, what he is selling, which is if the team has success, whatever role you've been a part of, you're going to be successful. And, again, that's hard to say to somebody who's like, yeah, how individually successful am I going to be when I'm not getting at-bats and I'm not in the field? But he has done just an incredible job. I mean, and that's a story, Hunt, that you and I both know has been told by coaches since sports has come around. And in this era, to the point you just laid out, how easy it is to move around and, kind of feel sorry for yourself. You're not getting enough, work, not enough gameplay. For him to be able to do that and create the type of statements that those players that you just pointed out are saying, I mean, that's one hell of a sales job as far as I'm concerned, because you see a lot of places that don't have that. And, I think some of that, you can see the truth in that when you look at the guys who were maybe younger that are still here, the Josh Pearsons of the world on that 2023 team. I mean, think about some of the big moments that Josh Pearson had, on that run to a national title. Now, was he an everyday guy? He eventually was, but he wasn't always an everyday guy. Last year, he wasn't an everyday guy. I think it helps that his brother wanted to play and come to LSU. But I also think Josh Pearson understands he's going to get his moments. And, to be able to sell that across the board to this many talented baseball players in this era is one impressive sales job.
It is. I've been really, really impressed. You don't have John Brady to guide you around here in Austin like he does everywhere else in the league. So is it going to be Tex-Mex, barbecue? What are we getting into?
I don't really know. I mean, I've been here once, came here in 2023, but I didn't travel with the team. I was with basketball, so I actually had to fly separate and, come over here a couple of times, obviously with football and basketball, but haven't seen the place we are staying. So a lot of that is going to determine that, because I'll give you a little secret. I know behind the curtain here, Hunt, I know a lot of people think I just live this glamorous lifestyle and go all these cool places. I'll probably be at the hotel for most of the 4 days I'm in Austin.
There's good TV on this weekend, so you can probably find something to watch there, I'd imagine.
You got it.
All right, Chris, we appreciate it. Safe travels back.
You got it, man. Have a good week.
Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, will be on the call all weekend long as LSU and Texas will get things started tomorrow in the first game of 3-game set between by what some polls would call a top 5 showdown. Could not be more excited to watch a little LSU in Texas over the weekend. All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, 7 years in college? 7 years. We'll talk about it.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety is a big deal in the bathroom, especially as folks age. And if there's somebody in your life that you may have some concerns about, maybe getting into a hazardous situation in the bathroom, do what you can to mitigate against that. Get the non-slip floors that David Duvall and his team can put in. Get the handrails put in that David Duvall and his team can use. Walk-in tubs, convenient, safer. Showers with a bench in it. All that can be done at One Bath and Closets, and it can make the bathroom a safer place for someone in your life. Get the free consultation. It's online at onebathandclosets.com. You can scroll through the pictures of their fantastic work. You can see the testimonials from their satisfied customers. It's all there online at onebathandclosets.com. Onebathandclosets.com.
It's not just a game, it's a religion. You've got your team color, team swag, and now your very own website. LouisianaSports.net. Everything LSU, Saints, and Pelicans. Sports on demand. In-depth coverage by sports writing pros with continuously updated news. And with the LouisianaSports.net newsletter, you get pinged directly with top trending stories. Best of all, now and always, no paywall. It's free. LouisianaSports.net. Powered by 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Your home for Louisiana sports.
Man, Age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
I like Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show with former Texas A&M Yell leader, Hunt Palmer. Giga Maggies.
Oh, like Van Wilder, solid movie. Guy stays in college for like a decade, throws a bunch of parties and whatnot. And that's kind of the case with some folks around college sports these days. You can find a way to keep a lot of eligibility these days. And John Emery, it appears, is going to explore that. John Emery said after he tore his ACL in practice leading up to the Nichols game, after he was LSU's most productive running back in Las Vegas against USC, said, yeah, I think it's time to move on. Well, there was just an Instagram post earlier today from Young Playmaker Sports Agency that said John Emery intends to come back to college football. It did not say he intended to come back to LSU, said he intended to come back to college football. That would be year number 7. I want to explore John Emery's signing class at LSU to give you some names and some context of just how long John Emery has been around.
I like this game.
In John Emery's signing class at LSU, Derek Stingley Jr., who just signed his second. It's an extension, but it's basically his second deal on an NFL roster.
What?
In John Emery's class, Mo Hampton, who was a football player, then a baseball player, then a transfer in baseball, and then back to football. It's been a lot for Mo Hampton. In John Emery's signing class, Trey Palmer,
wow,
who's making plays in the NFL now, went to Nebraska, was in that class. Jay Ward was at LSU for 30 years and hadn't been on the team for a couple. Cardell Thomas was in his signing class.
The old lineman?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Peter Parrish, quarterback from Alabama, was in that class. You had Cade York, the kicker, was in his signing class. I mean, Cade York's been bouncing around like 4 NFL teams at this point.
Yes.
And John Emery is still exploring the college route. it's been a crazy ride for John Emery, no doubt. You're talking about a guy who came in as the number one running back in the nation, a 5-star recruit, and showed some real flashes in mop-up time on the 2019 team. Like, you had Clyde, and he was the star, and they scored 1 billion points, and then they would take Clyde out late, and then they would go ahead and put Miles Brennan in, and they'd put Tyre Davis-Price and John Emery in, and those guys, like, busted some plays. Like, Emery had a big run against Vanderbilt, had a big run, had a touchdown run in that season as well. Like, he made some plays. And then you have the 2020 season, which was weird for everybody, and that COVID wiped that year away. And then in 2021, he missed the year due to the things off the field in academics. So at that point, he's really only had 1 year, even though he's been on the team for 3, because 2020 doesn't count, 2021 doesn't count for academics. Then in 2023, 2 years later, he tears his ACL and gets a medical. And then last year, he tears his ACL. He tore his ACL against Florida, did not get a medical for that. Tore his ACL this past year, got a medical for it. So you have 19 that counts, 20 that doesn't count, 21 that counts, 22 doesn't count, 23, and then 24 doesn't count. So you got 1 year left. It's crazy math, but it does work. You've got 1 off the field, 1 COVID, 1 medical. That's how you get to 7. And the question on this show and in this market is, okay, do you take John Emery back if you're LSU? My answer is unequivocally yes. I'm not telling you John Emery is going to be a first-team All-SEC back, but what I'm telling you is right now, your running back room is razor thin. You got Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson, and Harlan Berry. And then after that, you've got Trey Holly, who's not with the team, and JT Lindsey, who's a freshman who's not here yet. So if you just count on Lindsey being back, that's 4. That's still not enough. Because last year you had injuries. Emery goes down with a torn ACL. It got thin. You had to move Juwan Johnson to running back, which technically you could do again. And I didn't mention him in that list. But John Emery knows where to be. He can run the football. He can pass protect. Is he going to be a first-round NFL draft pick? No. Is he as good a running back today as Caden Durham? No. Can he help LSU's football team? Theoretically, yes. I would take him back. Now, the Instagram post does not mention LSU. The Instagram post says, reach out if you got NIL situation, and there's a new portal window that's going to open, and John Emery can jump in. And I think he could probably be a starting tailback at a low-level school if he wants to go try that. Now, the question is, does that low-level school have significant NIL funds that would make it worth his while? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and tell John Emery, give it up and go get a job, because those jobs will always be there. Your opportunity to play, he has 1 more year to play football if he wants to do it. Now, some of these rules are crazy that, guys' junior college years don't count. And then we've gotten a little out of control with the amount of eligibility. But those are the rules that are in place. So you play by the rules that are in place. The rule that is in place says his COVID year doesn't count, his academic year doesn't count, and last year's a medical and it doesn't count. So you've got an opportunity. I would welcome him back if I was LSU. He's got a degree from LSU in interdisciplinary studies. He got that in May of 2023. So he's free to go wherever it is he wants. I pull for John Emery. I think he's had such a difficult road. You got to think, if you're John Emery and you're a 5-star recruit, number 1 in the country at running back, you're a commit to Georgia, flip to LSU, those are the 2 schools you're picking from. You've got to think that you're going to go to the NFL and you're going to make tens of millions of dollars. That's got to be very present in your mind. You can have an understanding that doesn't happen for a lot of people, but you've certainly put yourself in that conversation through your high school years. And for him to come in, have a global pandemic happen, have the academic issues he did, tear your ACL 2 different times, that's just tough on anybody. That's a lot of adversity to go through before your 25th birthday, when at one point you were on top of the world as the number 1 recruit at running back in the country. So as I sit here, I pull for John Emery. I hope that he has a great year this fall. I don't know where that'll be. I don't know if he'll be at LSU. I don't know if he'll be somewhere else. But to me, I'm pulling for him if he wants to go take another swing at college football because the rules dictate that he can, and you can make some money in the process. I'm all for him doing that as well. I would take him back at LSU. My gut tells me, based on that post and not mentioning LSU, he won't be a Tiger this fall. But John Emery going to give it a go for a 7th year of college football coming up in 2025. All right, let's step aside. We're going to take a break a little bit early here. We come back. I'll get you caught up on all the scores for March Madness. We'll talk a little bit more LSU baseball. We'll do some take it or leave it, and we will get on down the road. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com. Look, there's no better TV watching than the next 4 days, right? And if you find yourself just not completely content with the home setup that you've got for watching the games, and you want to rectify that, there's one call to make. That's to Mitchell Fisher and the team at Audio Video Security Solutions. They do whole home audio. They do television installation. They can make your place the place to watch the game. Surround sound, hanging TVs, voice automation. They can even sync up your sound system so that all the rooms in your house are synced up to one television, so you don't have the kitchen hearing the game at one volume and the living room just across the way hearing it at a different volume at a different time. Sync them all up. Mitchell Fisher and his team can do it. This is his cell phone number, 225-439-7920. 439-7920. Give him a call and start that process with Mitchell Fisher and the team at Audio Video Security Solutions. You can find them online at avssla.com, avssla.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
You work hard every day to pursue a life you love. You put in the time, and it shows. You're forging ahead, chasing a dream, creating something better for the ones you love. You're building your own life. So why not build your own tractor? With John Deere tractors and attachments for almost any need, the Sunshine team can help you do just that. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to.
Hunt Palmer, lover of LSU, Shreveport, and mayonnaise on hot dogs. The Hunt Palmer Show.
Jordan, you're not impressed with mayonnaise on hot dogs?
No, that is criminal. It's so
it's
criminal.
delicious.
I just got to let it slide.
The mayonnaise and ketchup combination can't be beat.
Oh, well, I like that on a burger.
And a hot dog.
Wait,
it's awesome.
I don't know. Maybe the way how Beck used it, he made it seem like I'll get my hot dog, straight mayonnaise on it.
I would definitely do that too.
Oh, that is criminal. That's
It's
criminal.
awesome.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Mayonnaise is the key to almost everything that goes between bread.
So you're telling me, if you had an option, you only get pick one out of ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise for a hot dog, you're going to mayonnaise. You only get one condiment. You only get one condiment.
I get one condiment. Let me answer this truthfully.
Yes, one condiment.
Yes, I'm going mayonnaise.
Oh, that's crazy.
I would eat all three. Mustard clearly last.
Okay, I respect that.
The only time I ever use mustard, period, is if I grill sausage and I want to dip it in mustard. I don't want mustard on my
twang.
I don't want mustard on my sandwiches. Don't want mustard on my burger. Like, I'm not averse to mustard. I don't think it's gross. I'm not gonna give the burger back, but I don't want it. I want mayonnaise and ketchup. That's all I'm looking for there.
Yeah.
So
I can get jiggy with mayonnaise and ketchup. I can get jiggy with that.
There we go. All right, let's go through some NCAA tournament scores for the day and a couple thoughts on each game. Not a lot of drama to this point, which is not to be. I mean, there's three finals. Wisconsin's a 3 seed. They crushed Montana by 19. Purdue beat High Point by 12. That's a 4-13 game. And Creighton, the 9 seed, beat Louisville, the 8 seed, by 14 points. Creighton scored 89 points in that game. I think I just heard on the Sports Center that Creighton's won an NCAA tournament game 4 years in a row. That's really hard to do. Really hard to do. McDermott's an incredible coach there in Omaha. Huge docket of SEC games that is currently underway and coming. This is not part of that. Houston's destroying SIU Edwardsville 72-37. But Auburn in a bit of a dogfight with Alabama State right now. It's a 3-point game with 2 minutes to go in the first half. McNeese and Clemson have cranked up. That game is, where is that game? I don't know where they're playing. They're in the Midwest region, but I don't know where they are. But McNeese is up 10-6 early. They've only played they played 8 minutes of basketball there, so McNeese up 10-6 there. A lot of SEC action to come. Georgia and Gonzaga are going to go at 3:35. Wofford and Tennessee at 5:15. Arkansas and Kansas at 6:10. Yale and Texas A&M at 6:25. Drake and Missouri at 6:35. So loads and loads of SEC action on the docket today. I will be absolutely locked in on Arkansas, Kansas, as well as Yale and Texas A&M. Plus, I've got Drake going deep in my bracket. They play Missouri at 6:35. So that was my dark horse. Drake's 30-3 on the year. They beat Vanderbilt earlier this year. Missouri's a 6.5-point favorite. Missouri's a good team. They're really good offensively. They can score on anybody. They scored over 100 on Bama earlier this year. But I'm taking a shot with Drake there in that one. So I have not watched any basketball yet today. I was writing stuff for the site and getting ready for the show, and I've got some stuff to do a little bit this afternoon. But I plan this evening on locking in. Plus, I got the midnight feed tonight at the house for the baby, so that means basketball probably until midnight on the couch tonight before we can get that baby hopefully to bed. He didn't really want to do that last night. He was awake from 11:30 until 3:15. So that's not an ideal world to live in. Thankfully, we got a team. But the whole team was pretty tired this morning. But I got the midnight feed tonight. I'll be watching a lot of basketball this evening. Jordan, you got a national championship pick. You've listened to Jimmy and Charlie probably break this thing down for 3 days. They've got to give you some angle.
Okay, so the difficult part about that is we have multiple handicappers that come on that are giving various different picks.
Yep.
So your brain gets clouded so much. But
you listen to him every week. You got to find the guy.
You got to, but I'm kind of just rolling with Duke. I know, and nobody wants to hear that.
I got Duke too.
I like Duke. I like what Cooper Flagg brings. I like the team. So it hurts me to say I'm going for Duke.
I'm a little surprised. Now, I realize Duke's number 1 in the AP poll, and they were the second overall seed. So I realized, but I thought that a lot of people. I'm only competing with my friends and then the bracket here. Yeah. So I'm dealing with a lot of Louisiana people, and I felt like they were all going to go SEC. They were all going to go with Auburn and Florida. Yeah. So I thought Duke would be kind of a little bit of a zag, and everyone's going with Duke. So that didn't work at all. I feel like some people probably got to be feeling pretty good about Houston at this point. If you're trying to have a pick that's going to be different and get you the win in the bracket, I feel like Houston in this area is probably a pretty good one to have. Clemson cannot score on McNeese. There's 12 minutes to go in the game in the first half, and it's 10-6. So Clemson's got 6 points in 8 minutes of action.
They nervous?
Yeah, maybe so.
Nervous.
Coach Wade, they're going to have to play him in conference next year, so they better get it together there. All right, we got some take it or leave it to get to today.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, let's start it off with a group led by Bill Chisholm, managing partner at Symphony Technology Group, has agreed to purchase the Boston Celtics for $6.1 billion. That price will surpass the $6.05 billion a group led by Josh Harris paid for the Washington Commanders in 2023. So now the Celtics purchase is the not the most, but the North American highest, bought franchise. So are the Celtics worth it? Take it or leave it?
I'll take it because those prices continue to go up and up and up and up. And that's the thing that I always say when I talk about ownership in sports. If you have a sports franchise and you cry poor based on your spending, then sell the team.
Yeah.
And
Cincinnati
make your
Bengals.
$4 billion or your $6 billion or your $5 billion, whatever, and go away.
Yes.
We want rich people running the show.
Yes.
And if that needs to be a group of rich people and not one team, like the way Jerry Reinsdorf runs the Chicago White Sox is offensive to me, and I hate the White Sox. They have never spent, not one time, $100 million on a free agent. Never.
Whoa, in
the
baseball?
history, they're in Chicago.
Yeah.
They're not the Rays. It's the third biggest market in the country, I think. And that's how, because he doesn't have as much money as the other teams. And so you either have to have a team get bought by Steve Cohen or do a group like the Dodgers with Magic Johnson to go spend money. So, yeah, this furthers my point that, I don't want to hear owners of professional sports teams crying poor. I realize that they have an appreciating asset and they like being in control, but the fact of the matter is that you work for the fan base, in my opinion, when you buy that team. And if you can't do the things that need to be done, then sell the team for $6 billion and go do something else. That's my point.
Literally. So ESPN predicted a breakout player for every top 25 school. And for LSU, it's receiver Nick Anderson, the transfer. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I'm very hopeful about that. I've talked about him a lot in the transfer portal window back in January. He is still not practicing at 100%. I can't speak to his health, actually, because I haven't talked to him. Yeah. But he's not doing some of the practice stuff that they're doing. When we're out there, he sits off to the side some. Now, when he does practice, he's going full speed. He's going through the cones. He's doing all the route running stuff. But when they do contact periods, he's not out there. He's got some tape on his right knee. So I'm very hopeful for him. His talent is obvious. When you have 10 touchdown catches for Oklahoma as a redshirt freshman, you're doing something right. But he missed all last year with an injury. So he's the guy on LSU's roster that most looks like a number one, meaning he's got the size and the speed and the production. You've got guys that do have plenty of speed. They just don't have necessarily the size or the production. You've got some guys that are taller that maybe don't have quite the speed. He's got kind of the whole package. So I'm hopeful that he's a breakout guy this year. That would be huge for LSU. But right now, he's taking it easy in the spring.
All right, so ESPN also picked 6 teams that can take down the almighty Dodgers. So I'm going to say the 6 teams. Who do you think can do it?
Let me guess them.
Guess them.
Mets.
No.
Really?
No.
Phillies.
Yes.
Braves.
Yes.
Yankees without Cole. That seems like a lot to me. I don't think that's who it is.
No Yankees.
Padres.
Yes.
So I've got.
You have the Braves, Padres, and Phillies.
Braves, Padres. There's 3 more?
3 more.
Holy mackerel. Let's go out to the NL West. I got the Dodgers. Diamondbacks?
Yes,
okay,
Diamondbacks.
they added
They were
pitching.
number 1.
Okay, they added pitching. That's fine. That's who the Cubs open with now. They've lost 2 to the Dodgers. Whee! Let's see. I don't know. Not the Guardians, huh?
Not the Guardians. They are both in the same division, these 2 teams.
So that would be not the Cubs and Brewers, huh?
No, sir.
Okay. That would have been nice.
You was hot with the Yankees, though. They're in that division.
Oh, so it's the Red Sox and the Orioles?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are the 6 teams that they predict can take down not the Yankees.
That's not a lot of respect for my 0-2 Cubs, who are in last place in the entire major leagues.
But on the bright side, the season don't start for 2 more weeks?
No, it started this week when they played the Dodgers in Tokyo, and we're 0-2. And I'm very sad because I got up at 4:50 a.m. and watched both of those games, and we lost both.
That's crazy. 4:50.
4:50.
No, you was already up though. Your son.
Yeah, well, he eats at 6, so we made that happen at 6 a.m. But I got up at 4:50 by myself, and it was very sad. It was sad time for me, and it got 2 days of this week off to very sad starts. So let's leave that in the rearview mirror. Let's take it or leave it here on this Thursday. Lots to do tomorrow. Can't wait to talk spring football with Preston Guy, and then, of course, preview LSU in Texas. Got Zachary Sim, who covers Texas for Orange Bloods. He'll be with us talking some Texas baseball. We'll hopefully check in with Mark Etheridge as well from D1 Baseball, who's going to be in Austin tomorrow. So lots and lots of baseball, and we'll certainly get you caught up on the NCAA basketball tournament as well. I hope to watch a lot of that this evening once we wrap things up here. We're done on this show. Matt's going to drive you home. Coming up next on After Further Review. If you missed any of today's show, catch it on demand wherever it is that you find your sound. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, for a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine